Will Johnson, Isaiah Bond, and Jack Sawyer. We're putting them under the microscope today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Crabbs from Locked On Dolphins. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to issue a big thank you, shout out, and welcome to our everydayers. Those of you who never miss a single episode, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started.
Joe, happy Wednesday. Kind of the buffer day for us between weeks from a football perspective, end of 1 week, transitioning into the week of the next. And we're going heavy draft this week. We had a mock draft yesterday. We're going to do 3 prospects deep dive, including one of the best players in the country in Will Johnson. But these were 3 players that all had their name called in my 33rd team mock, which we went over yesterday on the show.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about these players. And we normally at the end of these Wednesday prospect spotlights, we pick, or you kind of pick the next week's players. And I think we already have 2 picked. So I'm anxious to kind of see where we land on that as well, because this has been a fun deal to get more acquainted with these players a little earlier than I did last year. And I know that you're into the weeds, and we got some fun players to discuss today. Back
to our roots, right? I mean, this is how we got started in this industry, was this kind of stuff. So being able to do that and kind of take this process early on. I mean, heck, this is the 3rd time we've done this.
It's the 4th. I got 12 players on my board now, Kyle.
Double-digit prospects by
baby. Let's go.
18th, right? Like, and methodically kind of working through them. And obviously, I'll have my own process that I'm doing for 3013, but us on the show, and we're pretty well represented with draft content still, as far as the auto report, and I'm keeping track of top 100s and mock drafts. So, kind of laying the foundation as we go. It's the equivalent of the summer roster assessment series that we do, but for the draft, and a much longer timetable in which we're carrying that out. So let's get into Will Johnson. We'll go there first.
Yes, sir. Corner, right. Michigan, 6'2", 202. Detroit native. Dad played in Michigan, 5-star recruit. I saw he was on Bruce Feldman's Freaks list, and there's a test that he referenced that I've never heard of, and I was hoping that you did. The plyo stairs test. You familiar with this? He did it in 2.27 seconds. I have no idea what that is or if that's a good number.
Did you see the video? I think it was Mozzie Smith, like broad jumping up the stairs from last year.
All right.
I'm assuming that's what that is. It's because it's plyometric, which is explosive athletic movements, stair test. It's however many stairs you got to climb and how fast you can do it.
Oh, all right. Well, I look forward to getting more acquainted with the plyo stairs.
What's it called?
The plyo stairs test. Yeah. 6.57 3-cone, 4.05 short shuttle, 10.8 broad jump. Kyle, we'll talk about the player, but if I could start with this just general thought on Will Johnson. I watched the tape, and it made me feel like I did last year when I watched Marvin Harrison Jr., where I thought the world of Marvin Harrison Jr. I thought he was the best player in the class, and I felt like it was going to be very difficult for me to find a player that was a better prospect than him. Just the boxes are checked in a big way with Will Johnson. Very complete corner prospect.
Yeah, it's a very complete profile and has the look and feel of a 5-star recruit. I don't think it's hard to identify the physical attributes with the length. I think invoking Marvin Harrison Jr.'s name on the defensive side of the ball is fair. I think that's certainly kind of the stratosphere of player that we're talking about here, whether you want to play man, whether you want to play zone. I mean, his eyes are outstanding. He's physical. He's got good ball production. Explosive, as pointed to by the Feldman's Freaks List shout out. I did send you the video of Mozzie Smith doing the plyo stair test. It's 7. It looks like it's maybe 30-inch.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 7 consecutive 30-inch steps. You got to jump up as fast as you can.
Let's go.
And Will Johnson did it in how fast?
2:27.
Okay, so our points of reference here, Aiden Hutchinson did it in 2.57, and Mozzie Smith did it at 2.82. So
and Mozzie Smith looks like he's scooting up these stairs.
Right. He's booking it.
Wow. Okay, this is fun.
So I go back to the interception that Will Johnson had this year. I don't know if you saw that play against Fresno State. Quintessential instincts. How many times do you get a guy who's 5 yards off and they throw the smoke or the now throw to the perimeter, and you got 2 of the guys out there and it's trips, and you trust your guy's going to go over there and set up a block and hopefully get secured on that guy, and then you can make somebody from a little bit more depth play and tackle in space. He beat the ball to the guy, and that's explosiveness, that's vision, that's instincts, all of it combined. And I thought it was just a really great embodiment of all of the things that Will Johnson brings, that whether you want to play press man, whether you want to play cover 3, whether you want to play him off, like, I have the utmost confidence that he's able to do it at a high level. And a player like that, with that scheme transcendent capability, usually doesn't last too long on draft day.
Yeah, I mean, physical profile, outstanding. Coverage instincts, outstanding. He's physical. He tackles. He takes away the football. You don't have to make it harder than it has to be, folks. You really don't. I felt like even when he gave up a completion, it felt like, well, it was free access, or it was just a crazy throw that anybody in the world would have given up that completion. He's good. He's a stud. I think he's the best player I've watched to this point. We've watched some good ones. We watched some heavy hitters. This guy's going to be number 1 on my board. And I think it's going to be tough to knock him off that top spot. Just don't overcomplicate it. He just checks every box at a high level.
Yeah. I think the biggest challenge for Will the rest of the way is just make sure you stay healthy.
Yes, sir.
I think that's he was the number 1 player. I was just pulling up to confirm on my initial top 50 that I did for 30-13. He was my top player as well.
That's Will John. We don't have to make it more difficult than that. Stud.
No, there's not a lot of compelling debate to be had about this one.
We can sit here and gush on him all day long, but he's that dude. So what a fun start of the podcast, and the start of this week's film study for me was getting into Will Johnson. Next up, a fun player in his own right, Isaiah Bond, wide receiver from Texas. Be sure to stick with us. Game days are super busy around my house. I got 2 young kids, and it's tough to find time to cook or get to the grocery store. Well, we don't have to deal with that because DoorDash is here for us. DoorDash is a food delivery app that brings me food from my favorite local restaurants and my favorite national restaurants right to my front door. The convenience is unmatched, right? You're hungry, you got a craving, go to DoorDash, they bring it right to you. Whether you need dinner, whether you want a snack from the gas station, maybe you need batteries. That's this position that I was in this past weekend. Needed some 9-volt batteries. Well, DoorDash brought them right to my house within about 20 minutes. So check it out. The promo code that we have for you here is LOCKED24. That'll get you 50% off up to a $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order. Limited time offer. Terms apply. Promo is not valid for orders containing alcohol. DoorDash, your door to game day greatness, your door to more. Download the DoorDash app now to order your favorite game day snacks. Must be 21 or older to order alcohol. Drink responsibly. Alcohol only available in select markets. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we got a little something different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. All that you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. Just visit FanDuel.com to download America's #1 sportsbook.
Texas wide receiver, formerly of University of Alabama, Isaiah Bond is our next name on this list. And Isaiah Bond, listed at 5'11", 180 pounds. He's been very productive early on for the University of Texas, with playing with both Arch Manning and Quinn Ewers at the quarterback position, playing with Jalen Milroe the year before at Alabama. This is, if I had to put the superlative word on Isaiah Bond, it would probably be, I don't want to say dynamic, that it's not specific enough. He is lightning in a bottle, right? It's the short area quickness and acceleration with Isaiah Bond that I think makes him a really attractive separator. You see a lot of separation in the red zone, and in a space where a part of the field where space is at an utmost premium. Being able to separate in that area of the field is a special talent. And I think you see that on a lot of opportunities with Isaiah Bond. And I think that makes him a very easy player to like. And I feel like for as good as he is, and as good as people know he is, he has the potential to be in a very different stratosphere of conversation, just based on if every time he won, is he getting looks with the ball?
Yeah, and if the passes are accurate when he is open, I think that's been a bit of a struggle for him to this point. Watching his tape at Bama, and I actually got a chance to watch Colorado State and Michigan this morning. Yeah, I think separation quickness is the name of the game with Isaiah Bond, and if you want guys that can get open and create space for themselves as a route runner with the ball in their hands, this is the guy that can do that. Obviously, he's got pull-away speed down the field. I think he's like the Georgia state champion in the 100-meter and the 200-meter, and I think you see that pull-away speed vertically. That's very, very attractive. And so that explosive skill set, the quick acceleration, it shows up in his capacity to make big plays in a variety of ways. And I think what I really enjoyed about him is the overall player. While he's not like the biggest receiver, there's a toughness that I think he plays with, being willing to work the middle of the field, and even in some situations to like go up in a crowd and get the football. Now, what I love about Isaiah Bond is that he's not often in the crowd. He's had 120 catchable targets for his career to this point. Only 11 of those have been contested situations. The guy gets open. And I think to me, that's the greatest superpower you can have as a wide receiver, is can you present a consistently available target for your for your quarterback, and you get that from Isaiah Bond.
Yeah. So I guess what concerns do you have with him as a player?
Length. I don't think he's got a lot of length to him. And he doesn't have a lot of drops on his resume, but I do think that he's a player that when I watch him catch the football, it feels like he wants to guide it into his frame. I would say that he's a guy with like super plucky hands. And maybe that's just kind of the limitations to the catch radius. So I don't get super concerned because that's just not his game. You know, I don't find myself like worried about it, but I do think if you're looking for a player that's going to extend their catch radius, I'm not sure that Isaiah Bond's going to be that player for you.
He had 4 touchdowns last year at Alabama on targets that were 40+ air yards downfield. So there's a explosive over the top element of him that I think you're seeing be complemented a little bit more at Texas with Sarkisian. I think it's totally fair to bring into light. He's listed at 5'11", 180 pounds. Mm-hmm. Now, I think there's a big enough body of work and the rule changes across the league that players like this, Xavier Worthy went in the first round at 165 pounds on a good day.
Right.
So, but I think he is a player you probably need to have complementary skills around the wide receiver room for, as far as body types, guys that can play outside. If you want to play him inside, I don't think it's a death knell for his draft stock if you think he's only going to play in the slot. I think he can play Z without a problem because of the separation ability and the short area quickness to get off a press. But space to operate, there will probably be some teams that are a little bit more content to give him more traffic to work through at the line of scrimmage at the NFL level as well. So that's like, if you're going to draft him to play outside and he's going to have to work against press, how quickly does he take to that as maybe a transition element to his game?
Yeah, I think that's a good call out. Good call out. And what I like so far about his usage at Texas compared to Alabama is he's been 76% this season through 3 games playing in wide alignments, where, that wasn't nearly as high. He was probably like a 50% player inside out at Alabama. But I think the good news is that at neither spot has that coaching staff viewed him as, oh boy, we got to keep him in the slot to give him those releases into, two-way go, or, not having to deal with as much press coverage. So I'm encouraged there. But yeah, I think that's going to be part of the profile here. And if he has the minimal length that I think he does, I think you get even a little bit more concerned about his ability to beat that tight man press coverage at the next level if he's asked to play on the perimeter.
Players with profiles that are similar to this, with
Zay
the
Flowers
stuff. Zay Flowers, it's a good one.
Yeah, Zay Flowers 5'9" and a quarter, 182 with 29 and a quarter inch arms. Jalen Waddle to an extent, 5'9" and a half, 180, 30 and 3/8 on the arms. I'm not sure he's that explosive. I mean, that's a different type of cat, but body types.
He wore 17. He wore 17 at Bama, and there were some times getting down the field where he kind of saw the flashes.
It was weird seeing him wear 7. I will say that. Yeah. How about Jaden Reed? 5'10" and 3/4, 187, 30 and a half inch arms. I think these are some good players to point to if you're looking for success paths.
I think Reed's got a little bit more catch point prowess.
Oh, I agree. But body type wise, I think
type wise. Yeah. Just because listening to you talk, do you remember who was it that we got the measurements and we had to go back to the drawing board? I think it was Wan'Dale Robinson. Wan'Dale Robinson came in at the combine, or we got his measurements and we were kind of shell shocked. We were like, wow, this is
Kyle, 27 and 5/8 on the arms.
Right.
5'8", 178 with sub 28 inch arms. That's unprecedented. That's 0%.
You're talking about length, right? And that's a player that had that extreme outlier that I'm pretty sure we had to change the grade on that one, if I remember correctly, when the numbers.
Yeah, because all the data came out that's like there is literally no path for a player with these measurements.
Don't tell Joe Shane.
Oh boy, I don't know what happened. I don't happen with Joe Shane. I don't know what happened. Cordell Flott early, Wan'Dale Robinson early. I mean, Evan Neal is like a technique disaster, and giving him to Bobby Johnson, one of the worst offensive line coaches in the league. Come on, man.
All right. We're going to talk
Jack Sawyer. You poked Kyle Crabbs.
We're going to talk Jack Sawyer next here on this episode of Locked On NFL Scouting. Make sure that you stick with us after the break.
Folks, if you want to get to some of these football games, you got to get the Gametime app. Gametime is the fast and easy way to purchase tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. Such an easy app to navigate. They give you flash deals, a seat view. You could turn on the all-in pricing to see the full price right at the beginning of the purchase of tickets. And I really love that they specialize in last-minute ticket specials. You don't know if you're going to be able to get to a concert in 2 months or a hockey game in 2 months or whatever you want to get to. But with Gametime, you can get great deals on tickets right up until the day of the event. So check it out. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app. Create an account and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? It's game time.
Jack Sawyer, defensive end, Ohio State Buckeyes. He's from Pickerington North High School. I feel like this is a total factory for Ohio State. Like, didn't the Bosa brothers play there? Do I remember that correctly?
Yeah, I don't remember where they went, but
All right.
sounds like he was an Ohio guy from reading about him. Pickerington. I don't.
Right. I'll come back to Pickerington North, and we'll give them their flowers. Right. I see that name quite a bit for their Ohio State kids. So Sawyer was a 5-star player, number 1 player ranked in Ohio, number 4 player nationally coming out. Did not play his senior season at Pickerington North. Listed at 6'5", 260 pounds, just an astronomical pressure profile in 2024. Through the Buckeyes' first 2 games, he's getting pressure on 34.5% of his pass rushes for this season. Now, life's going to get a little harder than Western Michigan for Ohio State, but nevertheless, you knew the tools were here. You're seeing a jump in pass rush productivity for him this year that I think has you very optimistic that he can continue and live up to some of the athletic tools that he has as a former 5-star player.
Watching Jack Sawyer this morning, and I'm watching him, and I'm trying to figure out for myself: is he Sam Hubbard or is he Trey Hendrickson? Right? Because I think that's a big deal.
Right.
Really physical player at the point of attack, good run defender, like technically sound guy, stout, right? There's a lot to like about him. I'm curious, and I like you said, I think there's been some encouraging signs early this year. I'm just concerned. I'm curious of what like the true ceiling here is as a high impact pass rusher. I think he'll be a good pass rusher, but do we see a little bit more with his rush plan? Do we see a little bit more explosiveness and a little bit more flexibility? And maybe those aren't the hallmarks of his game, but that's where I want to feel better about those dynamic traits and where they land, because I think he'll be a good starter. But is he going to be Sam Hubbard or is he going to be Trey Hendrickson? I think that's what I'm looking to figure out with him moving forward.
So Jake Butt, Pat Elflein, some notable players from Pickerington North.
Where'd the Boses go?
St. Thomas Aquinas, and it's Fort Lauderdale. I have no idea.
I hear
no
you.
idea.
All right.
No idea how I got there. I think it's fair to question. And the big difference between the 2 players that you just invoked is the power. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, both high motor guys, both
Sam Hubbard and Hendrickson is.
Yeah, I think Hendrickson just got a little bit more dynamic physical upside with his explosiveness, with his flexibility. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why he's a better player. Both good players, but one's better.
Well, one has the ability to take over some games as a pass rusher, and the other doesn't. And kind of explosive powers, I think the big separator for Hendrickson, where I think Hubbard is heavy hands, but maybe not the athletic profile is quite as explosive and bursty. So I think it's safe to project a floor like a Sam Hubbard.
Yeah.
And the question for Sawyer, and I don't know how much clarity you're going to get here in the season versus the testing process for him. But if he starts coming out here and they get into the Big Ten schedule and they start rocking and rolling, and he continues this big time explosion that he has in pass rush productivity, that I think that is going to really feed into his stock and put him in a position to maybe be a top 25, top 32 selection.
Right. Do you see this schedule? Like you know these tackles more than me. Are there any big time tackles that should be appointment television the rest of the way? I know he's got Iowa, Oregon, Nebraska, Penn State, Purdue. Killed Purdue last year. Michigan, Indiana, Northwestern. Is there going to be some big tests there that we should be paying attention to?
So Oregon's got some offensive line talent that's worth watching. That's probably, if you're looking for just like prospect on prospect matchup.
Yeah.
That's probably the one to be dialed into. And we don't have to wait too long for that. That's October 12th. That's less than a month away. Now, I'd say temper your expectations for this weekend against Marshall. probably not going to get too much more clarity than what you've already got against Akron and Western Michigan. But this Ohio State team is loaded with a lot of talent, and they're going to roll a lot of teams. Having to go to Oregon and play on the road, that's the one for me. Like, even Michigan's down this year. They lost so much talent. I think they set a record in the draft last year for amount of players picked. And
feels like there's a million guys we got to watch, but they're just not as proven, right? Is that kind of the deal? Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think you're at Penn State and at Oregon are your two opportunities to get as much clarity, I think, as you're going to get on Jack Sawyer.
So, Kyle, for next week, I think we have Kelvin Banks, the tackle from Texas, lined up.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had somebody that you had already said, and that name escapes me currently.
Well, let's do the thing.
Do the thing. Who was it?
Is it Cam Ward?
I don't know if it was. I think we said we wanted to wait until we had a little bit more 2024 tape on these quarterbacks before we start doing them.
Got it.
And we can listen to yesterday's show. I'm sure somebody's listening to us right now. I was like, yeah.
And they're screaming at us with what it is.
Screaming.
It's Kelvin Banks. Why do I feel like he was a defensive player?
I think
was it Grant? The other Michigan tackle?
I think we've teased doing him for a while. I guess let's take the opportunity, man. Whatever you want, as long as Kelvin Banks is one of them.
Kelvin Banks is definitely one. You want to do Kevin Winston, Penn State?
The Penn State safety?
Yeah.
Sure. Now we need a skill player, right? An offensive skill player. You got one?
Let's do skill player. We just did a wide receiver. I don't want to do Colston Loveland. Why don't we do? You want to do a running back, and you want to do a wide receiver? You want to do a running back, and you want to do a wide receiver?
I guess I'd prefer a wide receiver, but it doesn't have to be.
Let's do a wide receiver. Let's do.
Big choices here, Kyle Crabbs.
I know.
We thought we only had one to figure out. We're blowing it, man.
Emeka Egbuka.
I see him going in the first round, right?
Ohio State. No, let's do the Stanford kid.
What's
Ayumanor? Eric Ayumanor. Big body.
Oh, surprise! If the big-bodied Stanford receiver, great, Kyle Crabbs.
So that's it. And apologies if you were really banking on. Was it Tyler Barron? Was that the guy?
Dude, you could say anything. I believe you.
All right, well, all fair. We'll figure out who we're doing. Well, we've got like 18 names invoked for who we're going to do next week. So you're just going to have to keep following along. You can find us on YouTube or wherever you list your favorite podcast. That is going to do it for us here today on the show. I'm Kyle Crabbs. He's Joe Marino. Come back and see us again soon.